It isn't good for you. Not in the abstract way people say things aren't good for them. In the specific way, you've seen the pattern, you've named it. You've probably ended it once, twice, more than that, and found yourself back inside it, or inside something that looks exactly like it with a different face. And the thing that nobody talks about, the thing that makes this particular loop so hard to break, isn't that you can't see it, you can see it perfectly. It's that some part of you goes toward it anyway. Not despite knowing, alongside knowing. You don't lack insight, you lack a different kind of explanation. And that explanation isn't about the other person. It's about the map you were given before you were old enough to know you were being given a map. In the 1950s and 60s, psychiatrist John Bowlby proposed something that changed how we understand human relationships. Every person develops, very early in life, what he called an internal working model, a template, a set of expectations about what love feels like, what it requires, whether it is reliably available, and what you need to do to keep it. This template is not a conscious belief. You didn't choose it. It was installed by the earliest relationships you had before you had language for it, before you had any basis for comparison, before you knew there was any other kind. And here is what the template does. It recognizes when you encounter a relationship that matches the template, that has the specific texture of the love you learned first. The nervous system responds with something that feels like recognition, like arriving somewhere familiar, like home. The problem is that the template was written in conditions you didn't choose, by people doing their best in circumstances with their own history. And some of what got written into the template was the relationship between love and inconsistency, between love and distance, between love and the specific tension of needing someone who is sometimes not available. That tension doesn't feel wrong, it feels like love. Because it was the first love you knew. Here is what the template looks like in adult relationships in the 3 patterns that show up most reliably. The first pattern is the pursuit of the familiar texture. You meet someone who is warm but unpredictable, attentive, and then distant. Present in a way that feels electric, and then absent in a way that feels like falling. And something in you, not your judgment, not your values, not the part of you that knows better, something older than all of that, responds to this specific combination the way a key responds to a lock, not because it's good, because it matches. Because the nervous system has been running this particular search pattern since before you understood what you were searching for. Mary Main, who extended Bowlby's work into some of its most important territory, identified what she called disorganized attachment, the pattern that forms when the person who is supposed to be the source of comfort is also sometimes the source of fear or unpredictability. When that happens, the nervous system faces an impossible equation. The thing that frightens me is also the thing I need to run toward, and it resolves this equation. The only way it can, by treating the combination of fear and love as the definition of love itself, not a flaw in the love, the texture of it. This is not pathology. This is the most logical response available to a system that had no other options. The second pattern is the misreading of calm as absence. You find someone consistent, someone who shows up when they say they will, who doesn't create crises and doesn't disappear and come back with the specific intensity that the template has associated with being wanted. And you feel not grateful, not relieved, vaguely empty, like something is missing, like the relationship doesn't have enough weight. You tell yourself there's no chemistry. What is actually happening is that the nervous system is running its search pattern and not finding the specific markers it was trained to recognize as love. Calm registers as indifference. Reliability registers as low stakes. The absence of tension reads as the absence of feeling. Daniel Siegel describes this as the implicit memory system at work, the part of the brain that stores emotional knowledge from early experience and activates before the thinking brain has any input. You don't choose to misread calm as absence. The implicit memory interprets incoming data through the template it has, and the template doesn't have a code for love without tension. So, the nervous system looks at something steady and warm and real, and files it under not quite enough. Not quite the thing. The search continues. The third pattern is the cycle itself. Sue Johnson, whose emotionally focused therapy has mapped the specific loops that distressed relationships fall into, identified what she calls the demon dialogue cycles, where one person pursues and one withdraws. The pursuing intensifies the withdrawing. The withdrawing intensifies the pursuing, until both people are trapped in a loop neither chose. What Johnson found is that both the pursuing and the withdrawing are doing the same thing, trying to get back to the familiar. The pursuer is chasing the closeness the template says should be available. The withdrawer is recreating the distance the template says is safe. Both are trying to go home. They just have different addresses. The person you keep choosing is not a mistake. It is the most accurate map your nervous system knows how to draw. Every time you end up in the same place, the system is not failing, it is succeeding at the task it was given. Find the kind of love it already knows. The problem is not the map. The problem is that the map was drawn from a territory that no longer exists. For a version of you that no longer needs the same things, think of it like a map drawn before you could choose the territory. You didn't draw it, you were given it. Not deliberately, not maliciously, but through the texture of daily life, through the specific quality of the love that was available, through what happened when you needed something, and what happened when you needed too much. And the map has an X on it, a location marked home. And for as long as you have been navigating relationships, some part of you has been trying to get back to that location. Not because it was perfect, not even because it was good, but because it was where you learned what the territory felt like. And familiar territory, to a nervous system, is safe territory even when it isn't. The mind in this episode is the navigator. The one who has been holding the map since the beginning, running the search, trying to bring you home. Every time it steers you toward the familiar pattern, it is not trying to hurt you. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. Loyal, competent, reading the only map it has ever had. The problem is not the navigation. The problem is the map. And here is what makes this more hopeful than it sounds. The map can be redrawn. Not all at once, not without cost. But the nervous system is not static. Bowlby himself argued that the internal work, ing model, was always designed to be updated as new information arrived. The system was built to learn. It just needs to encounter something that doesn't match the map, and to survive the encounter. To stay present when the familiar pattern doesn't arrive. To let calm be enough, even when it feels like less. To let the nervous system slowly, imperfectly, draw a new line that says, this is also home, this is also love. The shift is not the moment you stop loving the wrong person. It is the moment you understand what you were actually looking for in them, not the individual, the template they matched. The feeling of being in familiar territory, the recognition that the nervous system mistook for chemistry, for depth, for the real thing, when what it was actually responding to was the pattern it already knew. The love was real. What was also real was the system running beneath it, doing the only navigation it knew how to do, trying to bring you home with the map it was given. The distinction that changes everything is the distinction between the map and the destination. The map was written in conditions that no longer exist, for a you that no longer needs the same things. But the destination, the actual thing you are always trying to reach, that destination is real. Safety, presence, love that is reliably available, connection that doesn't require tension to feel like it counts. The map pointed at a real thing, imperfectly, using the only coordinates available at the time. And the real thing is still there. It just has a different address than the one on the original map. You were always trying to get somewhere real. The map just had the wrong address. This is not a small distinction. It is the difference between a person who is broken and a person who is navigating with incomplete information. Between someone who keeps choosing wrong and someone whose system keeps choosing familiar. The system is not broken. The coordinates are outdated. And outdated coordinates can be updated, which broken cannot. Lumi in this episode is the new line on the map, not the correction of the old line, the addition. She is the evidence that the territory contains more than the original map described. She doesn't ask the system to abandon its old navigation. She asks it to consider that the map might have a page it hasn't read yet. And the mind, for the first time in the series, is not resisting her, it is listening. Because the mind was never the problem, it was doing its job with the information it had, and it is loyal enough to update when the new information finally arrives. 3 practices, not treatments. The practices that give the map new data. The first is to name the template, not the person. The next time you find yourself drawn toward the familiar pattern, or the next time the .com person feels like not enough, stop the analysis at the level of the individual and move it to the level of the template. Not, what is wrong with me that I keep choosing this person? But, what does this person's texture match in the map I was given? Not, why can't I feel anything with this stable person? But, what is my system searching for that stability doesn't provide, and where did it learn to need that specific thing? A pattern correctly located in the original map, rather than the present relationship, can be worked with, in a way that a pattern blamed on a specific person cannot. The second is to let the unfamiliar survive. The nervous system updates its map through experience, not through insight, not through understanding, but through the accumulated evidence of what actually happens when you stay in the unfamiliar territory long enough to find out. The calm person who still shows up on Tuesday, the relationship without tension that is still there in month 4, the love that doesn't require a crisis to feel real, and that you let yourself stay in, even when every instinct says this cannot possibly be the real thing, long enough for the implicit memory to file a new entry. This is also what love can feel like. Each time it does, the map gets one small new marking, one data point that says, home might be larger than I was told. The third is to extend compassion to the navigator. The mind that has been running the old map is not your enemy. It has been trying to bring you home every single time, using the only map it had toward the only home it knew. It doesn't need to be fought, it needs to be shown a larger map. And the showing takes time, and imperfect data, and the willingness to stay in rooms that don't yet feel like home, long enough for them to become familiar in a way that is also safe. You are not broken because you keep finding the same pattern. You are navigating with a map drawn before you could choose the territory, by a system that has been loyal to you since before you had words, trying, every single time, to bring you somewhere that felt like the first place you were loved. The work is not to stop loving. The work is not to become someone who doesn't feel. The pull of the familiar, the pull will probably always be there, the echo of the first map, the residue of the first home. The work is to slowly, imperfectly, draw the map larger, to add the line that says, this is also home, this unfamiliar thing, this reliable presence, this love without tension, this calm that used to feel empty, this also counts. The mind has been holding the map since the beginning, and it is ready, more ready than it has ever been, to draw the new line, not because the old map was wrong, because you have survived enough of the new territory to know it is real, and the map always updates when the territory is real. Spoony and friends, because everything you feel has an explanation.